Okay, so welcome back to Internet Client Engineering. We are at the last part of web design, part 4 on web structure analysis. And we're going to look at some typical structures or stereotypical structures of websites. So in any website, we need to design the structure, we need to plan for the structure. And the key idea is that the website structure should reflect the categories of users, and you might also structure your website according to tasks and subtasks. So for instance, the root of the subtree is the home page, but the child nodes contains subtrees which corresponds to different subtasks. Uh, and the third possibility is that website structure might reflect the real world structure of some area or some object. So for instance, if you think of this as a node, so this is your home page, let's say, and then there are multiple uh, links that you can go from the main navigation bar, and that forms one subtree of the website. That's another, and that's another. So if you think of the university website, each of these subtree could relate to a certain category of users. So maybe this is for researchers, right? So, and then maybe this is for students, right? Students, and then and so on, and this is for yet another category of users. So that's one possible way to structure your website, where each subtree corresponds to a different user category. So that's why we do the analysis initially, right? In a couple of weeks back, we talked about identifying who your users are and categories of users. And then based on that, you design your structure to reflect the different categories and subcategories of users that you have. Consider another example. Structure your website according to so you got your home page, but you might structure your website instead of according to user categories, you structure it according to tasks, right? So if you're an e-commerce website, maybe a whole subtree is devoted to help users buy stuff, and maybe another subtree for selling stuff, and another subtree maybe is for management, right? Maybe it's for account management, right? Settings and account management, for instance, right? Account management relating to accounts. So this is another way to structure your website, where each subtree may correspond to a main subtask that users might do through that website. So which do you use? Do you structure your website according to categories and subcategories, or according to tasks and subtasks? Well, it really depends on the website, and it's more sometimes an art rather than a science. But that relates to the initial stage of user analysis and task analysis that we talked about a couple of weeks back. In user analysis, you identify the users and user categories, and you structure your website according to that. In task analysis, you identify tasks and subtasks, the main tasks, and you structure your website according to that. Sometimes it could be a combination of both. So for instance, you might have a subtree devoted to researchers, and then that subtree may decompose into some other tasks, or you may have a subtree devoted to the task of buying, and under that you may have a subtree for regular customers, for instance, and then a subtree for not so regular customers or new people, right? So there's an interplay of task categories, and then here you have user categories as well, right? So but the idea is that the website structure can be informed by the user analysis and task analysis that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Okay, so when I mean real world structures, it could be a city, for instance. So you can build a website of a city, right? And as you browse the website, you're browsing different buildings of the city, and maybe different, and perhaps there's a subtree of the website corresponding to different building sites in the city, for instance. So a website structure could reflect the structure of the city, for instance. And there's this idea of superstructures. So if you analyze 10 different hotel websites and you try and generalize, and you might find that there's a generic structure, or at least the intersection of all this set of hotel websites, you might find a general hotel website structure. Or you visit 10 different bookstore websites and you can generalize over them and find the general structure of a bookstore website. Similarly with a car shop website. So if you look at car sales, you can look at drive.com, they have a similar structure. University websites, so you look at La Trobe, RMIT, Monash, and different university websites, you can kind of generalize and infer the type of links that typically occur in a university website. And you find the user categories and tasks that people do through university websites as well. Similarly with restaurant websites. And the idea of this is that if you wanted to start building a hotel website, you don't have to start from scratch. You can start from a generic hotel website structure. Right. So when customers are unsure, there's incomplete user analysis. And when you kind of know some user expectations, then you can make use of this kind of what is called general structures or superstructures of websites. Okay. In general, you have a website structure which might comprise a sequence of pages. So there's a linearly ordered set of pages. So it's a very simple structure. You just flow from one page to another. And this could be part of a website. So you have a linear structure embedded somewhere within a tree structure. Right? For instance, if you go to the Amazon website, of course there's a hierarchy. You can imagine it as a hierarchy of pages. But once you start to order something, you are led through a sequence of web pages. So there's a linear structure somewhere within that more complex structure. Right? So for instance, when you buy something, you might be taken through a series of web pages corresponding to a series of steps or a workflow that you need to do to complete the task of buying something. Oh, and of course you have hierarchical structure, right, which reflects user categories or may reflect the task categories or user categories, or might reflect some real world structure as we mentioned. So the real world structure could, for instance, be the organizational structure within a university. So a university has colleges, and within each college there are schools, within each schools there are departments, and a website could have a hierarchical structure that's reflective of the structure of the university. Right? So here's an example: categories and subcategories. So it could be categories, subcategories of users, categories, subcategories of some real world structure, or categories or subcategories of tasks. And of course you have random structure, where it's kind of a spaghetti structure and wouldn't work with a very large website, right? Because it's too much of a spaghetti for users to go through. You have hybrid structure, where you mix hierarchical structure with linear structure embedded inside, right? So which is quite typical. So here you have hierarchical structure, but you have some linear structure linking some child nodes across the different trees of the website as well, right? Now here's a question, right? So if you have a website where you want 512 bottom level nodes, you can structure it in a number of ways, right? You can have a kind of a flat structure where each node has many children, or you can have a kind of a slender, slim structure where each page or each node has few children, but you have more levels, right? So either you kind of have a flat structure with few levels but high fan out, or should you have a structure where it's kind of a tall structure with very low fan out but you have many levels? So which is best? So should you have not too many links on each page or not too many links to follow to find what is wanted? Right? So remember, if your tall structure is many levels, the user has to click through many links to do so. But each time, it only selects from a small set of links. If you have a flat structure, there are not too many links that the user needs to click through to get to the bottom. But at each level, there are many more links to choose from. Right? So which is best? Right? And I'll put up some document for you to see this, but you can have a guess first.